Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. My name is Clayton Cruz, and this is Grand Cruz Astrology. And today I'm going to talk to you about the new moon in 2 degrees Gemini and the new lunar cycle that we have. Lunar cycle is 27, 28 days, and it is representative of a time where it sort of represents our cycle of our unconscious, our instinctual nature, our habits. It's the part of us that is on kind of autopilot, if you will, the underlying default. So that's sort of the moon cycle. It's not necessarily conscious all the time. It's a little bit out of sight, but it does tie in very closely to our emotions. So normally a new moon in Gemini, I would say can be a little bit tricky, but I like this one. I'm going to tell you why. So we have the new moon starting at 2 degrees Gemini. So it's early Gemini. So the sort of early degrees kind of represent to me when I see a planet in early degrees, 0, 1, 2 degrees, somewhere in there. I think to myself, okay, this is there's newness with this energy, this expression of energy, which is Geminian energy. So the moon in Gemini, well, what is it? So again, I told you the moon represents sort of emotion and instinctual nature. It really likes security. It can be very tied into habits, right? But Gemini is very different. Gemini is an air sign, and it's not very emotional at all. It's very sort of logical, very flighty. Can be detail oriented, but only to the extent that it likes to sort of dabble in a lot of different things. And it likes to sort of fly over the surface of things, exploring the nature of duality, the intellectual nature of different arenas of life. And so that's very different from the moon. The moon likes to establish emotional connection. It has a sort of subjectivity about it, the moon does. Gemini, as a sign, can be very objective. So these energies can be a little tricky to work with together. However, what I like about this new moon is that it is in trine to Saturn at 1 degree of Aquarius. And so, what that should provide with this new moon is a little bit of staying power for the moon. Whereas the moon, normally in Gemini, we're talking about a new moon, you'd have a cycle of, being sort of, very superficial and, connecting people for a minute on an emotional level and then moving on to the next and sort of it wouldn't provide much depth and satisfaction for the moon. However, this Saturn trine is going to provide a little bit more staying power for the moon, as I said, and give it a little bit more structure to work within. Whenever you're talking about Saturn, even in a positive aspect, which is a trine, you're still talking about limitation. So that is there. And the moon in Gemini may feel a little hemmed in, but it only provides an opportunity to explore that dualistic nature that Gemini loves, yet in a more confined experience and not so spread thin. Okay, it's a little bit more focused. So the reason that I like it, even it is trying to Saturn, and Saturn can be limiting, but Saturn has just started to go retrograde. So how I kind of see this playing out is okay. So we've had Saturn in Aquarius sort of build, and I've done other videos about this. It's building this new dynamic, this new reality that we're living in, this new structure. It's still under construction. We're still figuring out together as a collective what it's going to be and what it's going to look like, and we're still hashing that out. So Saturn has pushed forward, pretty. It's pushed into Aquarius, and it started the foundation of this new construction, if you will. It pushed forward and went ahead and did it. Now it's sort of pulling back. So now we're sort of taking a break from that, and some of the clamps are coming off of the restrictions and some of the social distancing, and we're sort of collectively agreeing to let loose a little bit and be a little bit more social, which is what Gemini is. And so, would normally with the Gemini, with a moon in Gemini, Saturn and Aquarius trine, I'd say, okay, it is being social and being connected within the rules of a group structure and accounting for the group, making those maybe superficial emotional connections within this structure of a group. However, with Saturn going retrograde, it's almost we're still doing that, but it's almost like Saturn moving retrograde is it's allowing the moon in Gemini the freedom to explore. Not total freedom, still has to recognize the confines of the group, which is what Saturn in Aquarius is all about. But it's giving the moon enough, and it's really creating a good opportunity to use moon and Gemini energy in a way that you would not normally be able to use it. It's going to give it a little bit more staying power, a little bit more focus, so that the moon and Gemini can explore that dualistic intellectual nature and connecting in that sense, while at the same time having the structure and foundation to have an emotional connection as well. So I know that's a lot of words to throw at you, but understand that this energy is not going to be as scattered as it normally would be. So I really like that for the new moon. I really like the template for what it's setting up for this lunar cycle to begin with. Now, that's the moon, and I like this new moon. That will start this weekend, Friday, and into the weekend. And so, we'll have it, and we'll be playing with the new moon, and then it'll wax until we hit the full moon a couple weeks from now. And that'll be another video because there are things that are going to develop from that. Also, we have Venus that has gone retrograde, and it's moving very slowly backward in the sky from a geocentric perspective, backward in the sky, and it is still directly square to Neptune. That is in play. And so, as I did the other video about that, the Venus video about how there is still that maybe confusion about how we relate on a one-to-one level with people in a very casual way, right? This isn't close connections necessarily and deep connections. This is about how do we relate, to our neighbors and our community on a one-to-one level. How do we find that balance? What's good? So because Neptune is in Pisces, saying, okay, we have to account for the collective and what's good for everybody, and there are sick among us, and we need to be cautious, and there's some sort of confusion about, well, yeah, but like we're still humans and we're still social creatures, and how do we connect? So there's still this dynamic in play, and as I said in the other video, it's about being creative about how we manage both of these, not sacrificing one for the other, but getting creative about how we can make the best of both, right? So that's still in play. Now, what's different is right as the beginning of this new moon, this weekend, we're going to have Mercury hitting Venus. So there's going to be a little bit more. Socializing, if you will. We got Mercury and Venus together. So the Venus Neptune square that I talked about, creating that confusion, is still there. But now Mercury comes to the party and says, yeah, all right, well, let's talk about it. We're going to socialize. Let's figure out how to do it. It's going to give a little bit more oomph to the Geminian socializing, connecting on a one-to-one level side of things, because Mercury is in its home sign of Gemini. It's very strong in Gemini. So there's going to be an impetus or a sort of a push to connect, to communicate, to connect with people. Now, this could be, and I only say this because I'm doing attending an online webinar this week, and so it could be that people are also connecting electronically over the wires online. It could, this could be highlighted as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be, in person, right? But that could yet still be part of it too. So um, I just see a little bit with this new moon, a little bit of an unleashing of socializing. I think people have maybe felt a little bit, kind of locked in a little bit. We've been in lockdown. So, I mean, with the Saturn going retrograde, it would suggest that it's easing up a little bit enough for us to sort of break out and connect and express. Now, however we do that, that's our choice. And, that's up for us to decide what's appropriate. However, there's going to be energy for doing that, right? So it can be a really exciting time in a way. It can be really social, a lot happening, a lot of communications, a lot of a lot of information being passed back and forth. So tap into that energy if you can and get creative with it. Last thing I'll say is there is Mars has moved into Pisces. Mars in Pisces does give a little bit of drive to when we're talking about the collective. This would be a drive to help those in need, help those that are maybe sick or the downtrodden, or it's an active energy that expresses empathy, in a sort of collective context. So that energy is there, and there could be a push to want to do what you can, whether that's volunteering or donating or fighting for a cause or whatever. This is Mars energy really wanting to physically express itself in its behavior in a way that in the expression of unconditional love and helping people in need, the downtrodden, the sick. So that's how it can sort of express itself in the collective. Now, right now, that energy, it hasn't hit Neptune yet, and it's not making squares to Mercury and Venus yet. So right now, for this weekend and for the next maybe week or so, it's going to be helpful for the most part. I don't see it causing any problems. When we get to the full moon, there will be an eclipse, and it will be a doozy of an eclipse with a lot of interesting interactions, causing a lot of tension potentially, but also a lot of possibility for breakthrough. It's going to be happening a couple of weeks from now. June 5th will be the exact date, and I'm going to do another video about that. That is going to be an interesting cocktail of energies, and that could be very consequential in a very, very big way. But that's not happening quite yet. Right now we have the new moon. We have some a little bit of unleashing of the chains a little bit. It's pulling back on some of the restrictions, and we're exploring a little bit how we can connect. And I think for the most part, that's good. I think that's healthy in its own right. So enjoy this energy for now. I'll do another video as the aspects start to form as we get closer to this full moon and eclipse that's coming with the full moon. I'll probably do another video between now and then, maybe another 2 videos, depending on what I see. But for now, enjoy this energy that we have in the sky. I think that we can have fun with this one. So do what you can to connect, get out there, create. I don't know, enjoy it, live it up. It's a window. So yeah, that's what I got. And I'll make another video soon, and see you then. Bye.